So, good morning everyone, and welcome to the 19th, yes I said it again, 19th week of calls since COVID started, and welcome to all of you. I know a number of you have been here at our previous calls, a number of you may be new. Just to let you know, we will be recording the call so we can share it with colleagues afterwards, and for those that aren't able to make today's call or want to refer it or share it with members of their team. A little bit different today's session, which we'll talk about in a moment. Quick update on where we are with COVID. A number of you would have seen today's newspapers. Unfortunately, the number of new cases of coronavirus appears to have stalled. In fact, government announced yesterday that the number of deaths had actually started to go up again. Unfortunately, 119 people died in the UK yesterday as a result of COVID. 567 people have actually contracted it yesterday. And interestingly enough, whilst we're closing air bridges to Spain, and now there's a threat of closing air bridges to France, we're actually still ahead of them. So the problem isn't there, the problem's here. I was surmising earlier on, actually, before you joined the call, was whether or not the people who come back from Spain, the 10 reported cases, whether they actually took it to Spain with them or whether they caught it there. I guess all will be revealed in the fullness of time, but it makes you wonder whether this is political, more to do with Brexit than it is to do with anything else, perhaps. A show of muscle from the government as to how we can damage their economy. I don't know. Who knows? But what it does demonstrate to me, obviously, is that we have a very unclear immediate future, and leadership has never been more important, whether it be from government, business, or indeed from agencies. So today, I'm very excited to have Donna and Heidi with us from Reality HR. I think all of us have been conscious of the fact to lead in these challenging times. All of us carry both personal and professionally the burden of leadership, but equally too, the enjoyment that leadership can bring. And today's session is really about, actually, it's a very practical session. It's going to give you the opportunity to develop some new skills and to demonstrate your leadership personal styles. There's no winners or losers. We've all got different styles and different approaches when it comes to leadership. So we're going to be working in teams. So we'll have to get you to reveal yourself on camera if you can. And I'm going to hand over to Donna and Heidi now. For those that don't know Reality HR, Reality HR joined Pimento about 6 months ago. They're an outsourced, full service HR business, large business in fact. They service a number of SMEs across the UK. I think a couple of hundred, maybe 250 different SMEs with a range of different services. And Donna and Heidi are senior consultants at Reality HR. So I'm going to hand over to you ladies now. I'm also going to give Heidi a hosting opportunity so I can participate.
Feel very full of responsibility to be.
Full responsibility, yeah. Brilliant. Okay, you're now hosting.
Fantastic, thank you. Hopefully, I'm hosting some slides. Hopefully that's working. There was a nod, Donna, if you can see the slides.
Yeah, no, I've got them.
Excellent.
One thing, Heidi, to mention, sorry to interrupt you, is if we tend to have stragglers, so if you could keep an eye on anyone coming into the waiting room and let them in for me.
Yep, absolutely will do. Donna's going to start talking. Yeah.
Cool, excellent, thank you. So thank you to Stephen and the Pimento team for inviting us to talk through this and listening to what Stephen was saying about, potentially are we going into another spike and what does that mean for everybody? It kind of feels even more topical to talk about leading through turbulent times in this session. Going to take about an hour. We do have quite a lot to get through, but we do like to try and make our sessions as interactive as possible, so we want to allow as much of that for you to be able to talk through things as we get into the second half. So we will aim to finish on time at 12 o'clock.
Now I'm trying to do lots of things at once because there are people joining, so I'm doing the waiting room and I'm doing the slides, so I'm going to let Donna keep talking.
I'll just talk, that's fine. So as I said, things are more turbulent than ever. There's always change in the world, there's always things that are going on. The weather changes, for one, that's changed since I've been sat here this morning. The stock market, the changes in the world, natural disasters, but there's always things that are going on which come along and challenge us when we're trying to lead our businesses. I think one thing that we do know is the change that we've gone through over the last 4 or 5 months, and that continues to happen, is probably more turbulent than anything that most of us would have experienced before. And then place that against the whole world going through this pandemic, I think it probably is certainly the most turbulent time that I've experienced in my life cycle. And hopefully, once we can kind of get through this, we won't be going through it again. So when we talk about leadership, now it is really important that we lead intentionally or consciously. So we're not just thinking about the tasks that we need to do to get through the turbulent times, but it's actually thinking about the people elements that's going on as well. We obviously need our people to engage with us with what's going on. And that's people as clients and people as employees. There's lots of reactions that are going on. We hear lots about the mental health and the different impacts that people are having, both from working from home, from concerns about security. And the big thing about employees is that there is less information available to them. When we're in the office and there's change going on, or we have regular meetings or more regular face-to-face touch points, people are more aware of what's happening. But at the moment, things change almost daily, either from government updates or, as Stephen was just sharing, about figures that are going on globally. So, there's more insecurity amongst the people that are working for us, and less of a sense of control. And as we know, when we don't have as much control about what's going on, it's much, much harder. It's much, much more stressful, and it can have physical and mental, reactions to what's going on. But as leaders, we kind of want to try and negate those feelings as much as possible, because if people are feeling engaged and they're feeling secure and feeling in control, then they are actually going to be more effective as employees. So it really comes down to being able to consciously manage what's going on, and obviously focusing on what we need to do to move forward with our businesses. And we're going to talk you through a 6-step approach today. But leading, picking up on all of that with the leadership, is making sure that we can actually make sure that our employees can help us to move forward, and hopefully, we kind of expected the spike to come, but we just need to be able to get over that, and as much as possible, make sure that we can all work together to come out stronger and start to reset our business. Okay. So do something today that your future self will thank you for. And this is really just about, being mindful about what we do, having control over what actions that we take to make sure that going forward we can be stronger and we can get more out of it. To a certain extent, particularly when we're under pressure, we will actually do what is most instinctive to us and we will react in that way. But actually being aware and actually thinking more fully about the different steps that we can take and the impacts that they will have can actually mean that our futures will actually be more successful than if we take that knee-jerk reaction. So do something today that your future self will thank you for, and hopefully during this morning's session, we'll come up with some things that you can think about areas which you're really, really strong in, and maybe other areas which we don't focus on quite so much because they are not as instinctive for us.
That's great, thank you. So thinking then about us as leaders, as individual leaders of a business, of a family, of a group, wherever your leadership takes you, you are impactful, you influence the people around you. And I wanted us just to think about how our mood might impact us and the people around us, and how our mood might change when we're under pressure. And as Donna and Stephen have explained to us, the turbulence we're facing at the moment can impact us and make our mood less positive, and therefore we can be less impactful and less positive on those around us. So just a few things to talk through, really. Moods are contagious. Has anyone noticed that? Anyone ever picked up a bad mood or a happy mood from someone around them? There's lots and lots of research around the impact of a positive mood, and I'm just going to run through a few points. The references are at the end of the slide, so if anyone wants to go and look in any more detail at any of the things I'm just going to cover very briefly now, When we send out the slide pack, you'll have all the references to find the details. So there is research from the University of North Carolina that shows that a positive mental state, a positive mental attitude, actually makes our brain work in a different way and actually gives us a better memory for detail, gives us better performance in decision making and problem solving, and actually allows us to take in more information. Now, isn't that fascinating? The way we're feeling about something we're reading or something we're learning will be impacted by how positively we approach the situation. A positive mood will allow us to make better decisions because we learn more, we can take more in, and we can retain more. It astounds me that our mood can have such an impact on our ability. And now, maybe more obviously, moods impact relationship building. When we're in a positive mood, when we're feeling positive, we are more available to make connections with people. We're more willing to confer trust on other people, and we're less judgmental. And again, really important for us to be thinking about, what is our mood doing to our relationships? There is lots and lots of significant research done on emotional contagion. So how our mood is actually transmitted to other people and how we take on board other people's moods. So Daniel Goleman there says, comparing moods to viruses, that we have a natural ability to be contagious. Our moods are contagious in the same way a social virus is contagious. And that felt quite timely to pop that in there. But really kind of thinking of that as a leader, how are you impacting those around you? And have you been aware of anyone impacting you? Just to take a second, or to give you a second for self-reflection. Can you think of a time when your mood has actually affected your performance, or your decision making, or your relationships? Can you think of a time when you've been affected negatively, or you have negatively affected something that you've been involved in by your mood? So for self-reflection, I'll just let you think while I look at the next page of my slides. I wanted to think a bit more about leadership. Now, some of you might recognise the way this slide's laid out from Insights Discovery. Some of you may be aware of these the reasons for the colours, and some of you might not, and it doesn't matter at all. Don't worry if you don't recognise any reason for the colours, but just look at the words on the screen and think about which ones resonate with you. What is your current leadership style? As Stephen said, no right or wrong, no winners or losers. We all bring different approaches to leadership. But just have a look at some of these words and think, which of them resonate with you? Which of these do you think you bring to your leadership style? And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to look at some other ways that a bad mood or a negative mood might actually change the behaviours that people see from you. So those of you that are resonating with the fiery red words, anyone recognising themselves in any of these fiery red words? Are you determined as a leader, focused, proactive? I can't see very many people, but I've just seen Stephen nodding, so that's good. So at least one person's thinking, yeah, oh yeah, I can see Ian with a thumbs up. I haven't got too many cameras because when you're sharing the screen, you can't see many of you. So I'm sure there are a lot of you in the room that are thinking, yeah, lots of fiery red energy, lots of strong leadership behaviours here. But what happens when you're under pressure, when the turbulence gets to you? Anyone recognise any of this? We think of this as overplaying a strength, or we think of this as a bad day. So the behaviours, when you are under pressure, your behaviours may become less than positive. And these are some of the ways those fiery red strengths can actually turn into fiery red weaknesses. So you will hopefully, if you've got any self-awareness or are honest with yourself, recognise that this does happen or can happen on occasion. Now, let's think about some of the other colours. Who's recognising any of those sunshine yellow words? Anyone recognise any of the flip side, the bad day of the sunshine yellow in themselves? Again, real positives overplayed can become negatives. And I can see some people smiling there. You either recognise it in yourself or you recognise it in someone around you. So when things get hard, for those with the earth green energies, people with earth green energy are all about relationships, but actually can find themselves under pressure, trying to please everyone, losing direction, not saying no, being indecisive. And again, you might recognize yourself in some of these. Let's have a look at these cool blue energies, cool blue leadership. Again, I'm sure lots of you will be resonating with some of these positive words. And anyone recognize themselves in any of the bad day behaviors? So some of the colors will likely resonate with you more than others. As I said, it doesn't really matter where the colors are, but you will recognize yourself in some of those. And it's really important to have this self-awareness. So understanding what strengths you bring to leadership and then where you could develop your leadership skills are really important in this difficult times, to make sure that we're keeping the positives and we're utilising all of our strengths and not allowing the bad day behaviours to slip in to our style. So not allowing our mood to lose our strengths.
And just picking up on that, Heidi, as well, I think the other thing when we talk about that bad day is we might not always recognise them in ourselves, but other people might recognise or see them in us, particularly if they are very different to yourself. So it is really about having that open mind to actually think about the impacts that you're having on other people through your leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And hoping that you've built those strength of relationships that people can give you the feedback. And that's an interesting challenge, isn't it? To be able to give and receive feedback on people's behaviours. Okay, so there's some of the things that other people might see in your behaviour, but what might cause, let's just touch on what might cause some of these negative behaviours in ourselves. What might be stressful for us or for those around you? And this is really useful as well to start thinking about how the people around you are reacting to the difficulties, the challenges we're facing at the moment. Those with lots of sunshine yellow energy are motivated by inclusion and acknowledgement. So the pressures at the moment, a loss of choice, might be causing them real difficulty, might be very stressful for them when there's less opportunity for them to share their thoughts and be involved and heard. So you might find that those with lots of fiery red energy, and lots of you were nodding about the fiery red leadership skills, you might find that a lack of control in the current situation is causing you problems. And you are stressed by the fact there is less focus, or you're unable to be decisive. There's less control that you have over the situation. And for people with fiery red energy, we said all those things about being determined and focused and on it, and leaders, that can be a really difficult and really frustrating time if you haven't got the control. So there are obviously some things that will stress us all, but we're looking at the specific colours, the specific personality types that are going to be struggling at the moment. Those with lots of earth green energy, these are people who are focused on harmony, focused on individual relationships, and actually they're going to be very stressed by a lack of connection. And we might find that the social distancing, the working over Zoom rather than face-to-face is causing real stress for people who really need that human interaction and human connection. We might find that they're feeling stressed by time pressure, needing to react quickly, and feeling that it's very impersonal. So very difficult time for people with lots of earth green energy because they're not getting those connections that they need with people around them. And let's take a quick look at cool blue. So those with lots of cool blue energy are motivated by having information, motivated by understanding, by quality of work, and actually a lack of all of that is going to be causing them stress at this time. So a lack of information, a lack of understanding of why things are being done the way they're being done. And we see that with Stephen's point at the beginning, where none of us can quite understand why the government are making certain decisions. And that's extremely frustrating for people with lots of earth, cool blue energy, who need to know, understand the detail and want to understand all the nitty-gritty about why a decision is made. So there's probably lots of things there that you're recognizing in yourself or in those around you. And we're going to move on into thinking about, I'm going to give you a sheet afterwards we're going to send out. We're not going to have time to do this now, but actually some time to reflect after the session. We're going to send this slide out, this document out, so that you can really spend some detailed time, if you choose to, thinking about which of these stressors are impacting you at the moment or those around you. And then what can you possibly do to manage that negative impact? And this is a really interesting exercise. A fundamental part of leadership is about self-awareness and self-reflection. So if you have some time after the session, once this gets sent out via Stephen, we think it would be really useful for you to be able to spend the time thinking about your leadership style, what's working well and what isn't working so well for you as a leader in these difficult times. And what could you pick up in terms of what could you develop? What could you be aware of? Which of those bad day behaviours can you try and cancel out? So I've talked a bit about leadership. I've talked about you as an individual leader. And now we're going to think a bit more about the context of the business that you're in. What challenges and turbulence are impacting all of our businesses? Let's face it, we've all been impacted, and most of us in a not so positive way by what's been happening at the moment. So we're going to think, I'm going to hand to Donna to think about the challenges that are facing the business and the 6 steps that might help you approach each of those challenges.
Thanks, Heidi. So this 6-step approach, put my teeth in, to leading through turbulence. This is a really, really good framework, for any change that we're going through. But I think is particularly relevant right now because so many people are having to make changes, resetting their business, thinking about what's going on. And generally, the more emotional we are, or more emotionally charged we are in a situation, a sensing approach can really, really help to make sure that we do make those right decisions, not necessarily the knee-jerk decisions. And just thinking about what Heidi was saying there about taking some time to look at the stressors. Very often, whenever we're coaching around things like this, we'll kind of find that we don't often have enough time to inwardly look about what we're doing and actually then enable us to do things in a slightly different way. But just talking through this 6-step approach. Now, as much as we will kind of go through the stages 1 to 6, what's going to happen during the coming weeks and months is you will actually continue to recycle around it. As we know, things are changing very, very rapidly right now. And I think as people reset what they're going to do going forward, we are going to revisit each of these, definitely more than once. So if we take the first one, which is about focusing on people. So obviously as an HR company, people comes into a lot of our conversations. So what is happening for the people in your organisation right now? Are you in redundancy situations? Are you hiring? Have they been on furlough? Have you got people on reduced hours, reduced salaries? We have kind of seen a whole host of situations that people have gone through. And as I mentioned earlier on, we only need to turn on the news to actually hear about the impact that this is happening, is having on people. So what is the impact on those people? How are they feeling? What do people need to know to be okay? Now, unfortunately, as we see redundancy figures going higher and higher right now, there are going to be some bad news stories. And there are some things which we don't have much control over, but actually thinking about how we can support people and actually be there for them is really, really important. So stage 1 is thinking about what is happening for the people that you lead right now. Section 2, assessing your current reality. So what is happening in the organisation operationally? Are sales up or down? What do the financials look like? How supportive were the banks and all the grants and everything that was available? What is going on with resourcing? Do you have, the right people, the right premises, the right tools for what's going on? But a real, good look at what is the current reality of where we stand right now as we start to come out of this lockdown. with the uncertainty that's coming forward, what do we actually know? What do we actually know? So number 3, revisiting your strategy. So revising, looking at your plans as they were, whether that was a 6-month, a 1-year, a 3-year, a 5-year business plan, actually looking at it, is it still relevant? You know, does it still fit in the world that we're working in right now, where we have a global pandemic that's going on, which will impact our relationships, you know, throughout the whole world? So, you know, what needs to change? What are your revised goals? How will you set them? How far in advance will you plan? You know, it's completely looking and actually saying, what does our strategy need to be right now in this situation? So the number 4, communication. Now, communication obviously comes in to the focusing on the people as well, but it's actually, what is the revised revision, the revised vision and strategy? What are our plans? What do we, you know, think that we're going to be doing in the coming weeks, months and years? Obviously focusing on the fact that actually weeks and months is probably going to be as far as we can plan completely right now. What are the key messages? How do you need to get those messages out? It's remembering, as Heidi was just talking about different leadership styles, all of our employees, our clients, anyone that we interact with will receive communications in different ways. So it's being able to step back and actually think, okay, how I receive a message, is that the same way that someone else will receive that message? So actually looking about how you are going to communicate that message. What's the frequency? How many details do you need to include? Who's accountable for making sure that those communications go out there and are actually heard and people actually understand what's going on? So actually coming up with a really, really good communication plan. The 5th one, ensuring that your systems and the resources are aligned. So, you know, what are the processes which are required right now? Are roles going to change? Are premises going to change? You know, what do we need? If our strategy looks quite different to what we were doing before, do we actually need to completely scale back and do something in a different way and just look at what we're going to need? And then number 6, innovate. Now, innovate, again, probably sits in all of the above 5. But, you know, what initiatives are going to bring the most value to your organisations going forward? And that's in the short term, but also in the longer term. So, yes, making sure that we don't go into those knee-jerk reactions, but actually, you know, what can we do here and now, and how will that play forward into the coming months? What do we need to stop doing? Is there stuff that we're doing which really doesn't add any value, or is a distraction from what we need to be doing right now? What do we need to start doing, or what do we need to start doing more of? You know, what is really going to help us to lead and move forward? What opportunities are there out there? This is a really important time, and I'm going to tie back into number 1, focusing on people, and number 4, communication. Make sure that you can really, really hear from your employees, because different people will pick up on different things that's going on. Linking back to those qualities which Heidi highlighted when we talked about the different colours, people will see things and interact with things in very, very different ways. So when we talk about innovation, and we talk about making sure that our employees and people that we're in contact with are engaged, that is how we can get some really, really good ideas to make sure that when we reset and move forward, we've got, you know, the best quality, you know, that we can get. So, you know, how do we hear from our employees, but also how do we serve our customers? Do we need to serve our customers and our clients differently from how we were previously? Again, to make sure that we can, you know, we can move forward. So we will send this out to you. But as I say, even though this is a 6-step plan, which kind of really looks at encompassing everything, you will continue to cycle through these. And it's just making sure that when we're doing all of it, we continue to focus on our people, valuing them, praising them, making sure that we've got those really strong relationships to make sure that everyone is engaged and together moving forward. You know, it's about making sure that we share our plans, we share our changes. As I said, sometimes there are going to be some very uncomfortable decisions which need communicating, but actually by doing it, you know, in a respectful way, in an open and honest way, it actually just makes the whole process slightly more palatable. So We've worked through the 6 steps, and now what we're going to do is delve deeper into some of the business challenges which we've identified, and we're going to focus on 8 specific business challenges which have come up. Am I going to continue with this bit, Heidi? Yeah, okay. So we can see 8 that's coming up on here, and I'm sure all of you, will be able to recognise some of these with different perspectives and different things that are coming up. But, the first one, cuts in budgets, projects postponed or cancelled. So many of our clients that we're talking to are encountering this at the moment. The second one, uncertain long-term future and short-term focus. The third one, retaining our clients, something that, as a small business ourselves is really looking about how we can make sure that we do retain our clients. It's that looking to say how we do things differently to make sure that we are meeting everyone's needs. Decreased profitability, coming into looking at what's changed about finances. Is it about margins? Is it about availability of credit? Is it about the income that's coming through? Changes of workload. This is an interesting one. For some people, when we kind of look, for people who've maybe been in a furlough situation, have found themselves for 4 months with not having much to do. At the complete opposite end of the scale, leaders and certain areas of the economy are seriously busy, and we kind of have to watch that we don't move into burnout and situations like that. But it's looking at the change of workload. Is it short term? Is it long term? And what do we need to do to adjust to be able to deal with it? Number 6, decreased morale, lack of engagement. And Heidi touched on this one, and very much so, where people were all of a sudden forced into this working from home, less face-to-face touch points. There's some people that have loved it. There's some people that I've talked to that absolutely love the fact that the only connection they have with people is through the screen. For other people, it's a very, very lonely place to be, particularly with everything else that was going on in the world. And a lack of engagement for a business is really, really dangerous, because at times where we really need to pull together to move forward, to make sure that we can rebuild our business successes, we need everyone to be engaged. Communicating revised priorities and strategies. Again, it's a challenge because they could be changing really, really frequently. We think that we're on one direction and then something else comes in and changes it. And whether that's a government initiative or other things that are happening, because this is a global pandemic, not something which is local. And then people leaving and downsizing. As I've said, people are going through really, really difficult decisions at the moment with having to let people go. And it's never pleasant, but it does have an impact on how you're actually going to lead your business going forward. And sometimes it's those difficult decisions, but actually how you do it can actually mean that you can move on from it a lot quicker.
Can I just jump in, Donna, and say, would everyone type in the chat which numbers are those challenges are they finding at the moment? So the top couple, which ones are the challenges that are facing you? So just stick as a number if you don't mind. Just type as a number or 2, maybe 3 if you're really, feeling all three of the top. We're keen to hear. These are the 8 areas that businesses have been coming to us as a HR company about, and we're just interested to know what's happening for you guys. So I'm just watching the chat, seeing what people are putting in. 1 and 3, 1, 5 and 7. Be interesting to see if there's a consistency, if there's a sort of clear outrun, clear winner, if you like, in the challenge that people are facing. 3, 4, 6. Oh, real variety so far. We're going to give you opportunity in a minute to delve a bit deeper into some of these, but I just wanted to hear. Oh yeah, really across the board. I think we've got every number so far. 5, 1, 5, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. 3. Oh, no one's got a number 2 yet. Interesting, because we thought number 2 might have been a bit of a winner.
Yeah.
In that none of us really can forecast long term at the moment. But you're not feeling that's a challenge. That's interesting. We know it's happening, but it's not challenging you guys. You've got other more pressing concerns by the sounds of things.
That number one, cuts in budgets, projects postponed or cancelled. I don't think that's any surprise, is it, Heidi? We saw a lot of that coming through, and the client retention.
Okay, so pretty well across the board, apart from number 2 that no one's feeling particularly challenged by at the moment. I'm just thinking about what when we're going to breakout rooms, which are the topics we're going to cover. Maybe we won't do number 2, maybe we'll just go for the other 7.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. I'll hand back to you, Donna, to talk us through a little bit about each of those topics, if that's okay, while I set up the breakout rooms.
That's fine.
Good. Right. There we go.
Okay. Okay, so the first one, changing in workload. And as you can see, the colours are on here again as well, because this is really picking up on how different people, want to be supported when something's going on, and how they will see it in a slightly different way. Oh, Heidi.
Sorry, I think I've got my numbers wrong. I'm really sorry. My numbers are in the wrong way. So I think I need to get onto the next slide. Or we could just do them in a random order. I don't suppose it really matters.
It was just spinning before my ears.
I'm really sorry.
That's okay. I'm starting on number 5, which is the changing workload.
Let's start on number 5.
Okay. So changing workload, as I say, different people will see it in different ways, but it is about, the clarity, so people know what they're supposed to be doing, having some, really strong guidelines about objectives, how they're delivered. So if we kind of think about, realistic clarity, making sure that it's fair, that when you're all in the office together, it's much easier for people to see what's going on. But actually, being able to, make sure that the work is being distributed fairly, because different people will have different views on what too much work is. Making sure that there's commitment, making sure that, we are working on the right things. It is that whole adage of working smarter, not necessarily working harder. And just making sure that there's a lot of acknowledgement for what's going on, where people are pulling together. When we talk about teamwork, and particularly when we talk about different types of leadership, and Heidi mentioned it earlier on, there's no one way that's better than the other, but actually just by recognising that we all bring something different to the party is really important. So then this decrease. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say that when you are faced with any of these challenges in your role as a leader, you probably use one of these aspects more comfortably than the others, and really the purpose of running through the rest of these slides now is to make sure that you all know that you might need to take a different approach, or to remind you that there are other approaches, and when we're busy we can forget about that. And it's, I think, a really useful time to be thinking, okay, when we have workload changes, we're not bothered ourselves, but remember that other people have a different perception of things. Or when we have any of these challenges, we might not recognize that there are other ways of dealing with it. And the reason for putting them in the colors is to say you might not automatically think to do it that way, but there are other approaches that the people in your business may need from you. So it's to remind you that you can use any of these styles, even if they're not your natural standard style. Sorry, Donna, I interrupted you again.
That's okay. No, it's fine. And when we put you into the breakout rooms in a moment, you might hear that different people will have a different approach. And this activity is really just about encouraging you to have an open mind for different ways of doing things, which might be different to what your normal reaction would be. Okay, so we look at decreased morale and lack of engagement. This came up a couple of times, not quite as many. But again, there is about the clarity. It is about focusing on what's been achieved, what the targets are, making sure that everybody's contribution is supported, and showing concern for how people feel about what's going on. Some people will just be like, this is the task, this is what we need to do, let's move forward with it. But sometimes by just taking a little bit of time to actually understand why someone's feeling concerned, because to you it might not make any sense. It might just be, it's obvious, let's just move forward. But sometimes just being able to step back and thinking about how someone feels about something will actually mean that you'll get greater engagement from them. And that little bit of extra time will actually mean that you'll get greater benefits. So into number 7, communicating the revised priorities. Again, clarity, you'll see that clarity comes up a lot in here. For those people and those leaders that kind of focused on the logic about what's going on, it's actually about what's the benefits of doing this, why are we going to do it, what are we going to get out of it. But it's actually making sure that we know what our end goal is, and that our aim is to get there as quickly as we can, which is where you see those red words. But it's consulting. You know, it's not telling people what to do. People need to have an element of engagement and involvement in what's going on. So it's about consulting, not telling. And when we talk about differences, different people will interpret what they're being told to do in a slightly different way. But if we could take that consultative approach, one, it means they're more likely to buy into it. Two, if I kind of go back to when we talked about the 6 steps and we talked about innovating, actually you might hear something which might get you to the goal a lot quicker. So inspiring, motivating and enthusiastic will bring people along. Again, it's about the communicating, but it also makes sure that people are engaged. Number 8 only came up on a couple of people, so about the people leaving and downsizing. Thank you. So, you know, when people leave, you know, there's something which we talk about called survivor syndrome, which many of you would have heard about. And that's where we have to regroup and we have to be able to move on really, really quickly. Anyone who's having to do a restructure at the moment, mostly at the minute, it is about financials, and it's about making sure that we can afford and we have the right resource levels for what we're trying to achieve. So the people that are left behind, we need to regroup as quickly as possible. So that's making sure that people understand what their roles are going to be, and you know what their contribution is going to bring to the greater good. And then again, making sure that we've got those really, really strong relationships. There's a relationship of trust and respect, and people are just completely on board with what's happening and feel as secure as they can be. And I absolutely get that even if someone's doing a restructure right now, it's that whole adage that there's no, there's no job for life anymore. But actually, you know, what we're doing right now, we have every confidence in what's happening. Next slide, Heidi. Okay. So cuts in budgets, projects postponed or cancelled. This one came up really, really regularly when we did the poll just now, and something, you know, which we're having lots and lots of discussions with our clients at the moment, because obviously this impacts on, you know, on the financials going forward. And as much as number 2, the uncertain long-term future and short-term focus didn't come up as as something really strong for you guys at the moment, I'm guessing a lot of it will fall out of the cuts in budgets and the projects postponed and cancelled. Can you just flip that slide for me, Heidi, please? Again.
It's flipped too fast, sorry.
Okay, so when budgets are being cut, you know, we are, you know, examining, we're looking at the processes, we're looking at where we can streamline and how we can still drive forward and achieve our goals. It's minimizing the impact on people and their welfare. All those things that we've talked about focusing on our people, you know, there are going to be some impacts in a lot of cases, but actually let's just try and make that as humane as possible. Committing to the goal, looking at our activities, making sure that we're doing the right things and we're spending our time on, you know, on the things that are going to have the biggest impact on our businesses. And creating that sense of optimism. Yes, we've gone through a really difficult time, but actually we're all going to pull together stronger so we can actually move forward with our revised goals. So number 2, which is the uncertain long-term.
Which no one really seems to be too worried about, did they, at the moment? I think Andy's put a comment in the chat where we've got a great acronym there. We've got used to a volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world. So I think, and I've just responded just to say that brilliant, if it's a real skill if you can do that, but you've got to remember that not everyone can deal with that uncertainty or change in the same way, and that's some of the comments on the slide here. So
cool, it is. And it's just making sure that, you know, what you're feeling uncertain about, different people might feel uncertain in different ways. So I love that acronym. But a lot of the things that we would address on slide 2 will come out of the other areas that we're talking about. Client retention, and again I think the issues about client retention come out of everything else, because different people you know, have different things that are going on. So it is looking at those contracts. It's looking, you know, to make sure that they are meeting needs, that financially they are viable. It's looking at the stakeholders. It's meeting to, you know, to discuss what's going on. It's being involved. It's looking for common goals that we can move forward with. And with that, it is supporting and understanding. It's understanding what people are going through, how they might be feeling about it, what their timescales are, and then looking at the opportunities. Again, when we come back to the innovate, when we talked in the 6 steps, it's actually looking to see, what do we need to do different? Have things changed? What we did before, is that still fit for purpose? And then the final one is decreased profitability. And again, I think this links in with all of the others, because profitability really comes from how we're serving our clients, how much we, you know, our overheads are. So again, it's looking at those processes. How can we reduce the inefficiencies, making sure that we're fit for purpose right now, and actually moving forward, you know, what we're setting up is still going to be relevant. Setting the challenges and the goals and making sure that we can achieve them. And then that comes back by collaborating with everyone to make sure we're all on board and everyone's doing the right thing and not going off at a tangent or feeling left out about what's happening. And then the last one on there, you know, it is about that innovate again, because it is about coming up with new ideas, new possibilities, and just keeping that open mind to what's going on.
Brilliant. Thank you, Donna. That's hopefully given us a really good foundation for the task we're going to set you in the breakout rooms now. Now, I'm just looking at the numbers for the breakout rooms. And if we went into 8 and did all 8 topics separately, there would only be 2 of you per room. So I'm wondering if we just do 4.
Yeah.
We just do 4 breakout rooms, and maybe we pick topics. I know it's going to be complicated now if we don't do number 2. But if we do, let's say we do 1, 3, 4 and 5, we can just say, let's see, what do we think? 4 breakout rooms. If room 1 does topic 1, that would be useful, wouldn't it? That would be sensible. If breakout room 2, we don't give you topic 2 because that wasn't really a challenge for people, was it? Unless, give me a nod if anyone wants to pick up number 2. What do you think? You didn't tell me that was a challenge for you as a business.
Didn't come up at all, did it?
No. Okay. So let's say, let me type something in the chat as we go. Let's say group 1 does topic 1. Group 2 does, what do you think? 3, there was lots of questions on 3.
Lots of number 3, retaining clients.
Group 3 can do, what do we have? Number 4s across the board? Not very many. 5 was.
Yeah.
5, we had a lot of number 5. In group 4. Sorry everybody, I was so organised. I had it all typed out for you all, and then you scuppered my plans not wanting number 2. What do we think? Number 6, 7. There's lots of 7s.
Yeah, I think there was more 6 than 7.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. We'll pop into the rooms and make sure you're all okay. But group 1 are going to do cuts in budgets. Group 2 are going to do retaining clients. Group 3 are going to do change of workload. And group 4 are going to look at decreased morale. That makes sense to everybody? I've typed it in the chat. Hopefully that makes sense. When I press the button, everyone's going to vanish into a breakout room. I'm going to get about 5 minutes or so to work with the group in there to come up with a bit of a brainstorm about what you've done so far to try and address these issues, these challenges, and listen to each other about what other people have done. And then hopefully you're going to come up with 3 new suggestions. So if you can appoint someone as a spokesperson to come back into the main room afterwards and give us your top 3 tips for addressing that challenge. Donna and I haven't got all the answers here. You guys have got masses of knowledge, a wealth of leadership and business knowledge between you. So hopefully this gives you a chance to share some of that between you all. Clear instructions? I hope that's clear. I'm going to press the button in a minute and send you off to your rooms. We're going to whip round and check that you all know what you're doing.
Yes, you will, Emma. So if anyone wants to take a photo of this page before you go into your breakout room.
Great
You'll
idea.
see, actually, you'll see the chat. You'll be able to see in the chat where Heidi's just put which each of the rooms are, but the 3 questions.
Take a photo of the screen. What a great idea. Is anyone not on their phone that can take a quick photo of that? And then, because once we share the, you'll get the chat still in the breakout rooms, but you won't get the slides. Okay. So
5 minutes, is this, Heidi? So a very, very quick chat.
Send you off now, and we'll give you a warning before you come back. Donna, you're going to room 2. It's just going to send you off. Okay. And then you can move to 3. Hang on. There we go. There we go. You should have all been invited to join your room. So if you just click join to go, and we'll come around and make sure you're okay. Donna, if you do 2 and 1.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
That is awesome. That is so funny.
It is funny, isn't it?
Because we
So,
don't work together a lot.
Right, so which of you two want to be the spokesperson? Because I don't.
Yeah, actually, you could do the rest. Molly, you have a practice. Go on, love.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
Good girl. Good girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were two questions. What have we tried that's worked, and what haven't we tried? The 2 questions.
Topic 6, so decreased morale and lack of engagement.
Okay.
Is it, or is it? We're room 4, aren't we?
No, we're in
Yeah.
6.
Are we room 7? Oh golly, I thought.
Oh, wait.
I thought we were morale and engagement. Yeah.
Yeah, we're group 4, which is topic 6.
Yeah.
I'll go with the flow. Whatever. So she said, sounding like she had decreased morale. So decreased morale, lack of engagement. Okay.
So I mean, this is challenging because obviously we're talking about both. Obviously, in this case, both Pimento and equally too, we're talking about your consultancy, Emma, and how your morale. But actually, I think it works very well because both of you. I mean, Molly's worked exclusively from home in this period because of asthma. But you've only been out a couple of times, haven't you, Molly? I've seen that from vitamin E. And Ems, you pretty much have been working at home too, haven't you, throughout that?
Yeah, mostly. I've been out. I've had a few coffee meetings, including with Pimento members in the local town last couple of weeks. But yeah, it's been mostly work from home, which is what I always do anyway. So, but that doesn't mean to say that, you know, I mean, obviously we're all being hit by this, haven't we? So I think I've still purposefully done stuff to keep my morale up. Because I still, you know, I went into London a lot to meet people, work with people, and surround. So, and I am someone who likes the energy of other people.
Well, yeah, you're very people, you know, in that respect. You know, for example, I know one of the things you did, which I thought was quite neat, was to kind of set up these sort of virtual drinking sessions.
Yeah, but I mean, anything. Like, who will do something with me? You don't. Well, you know, but what I also did, I mean, what I loved, but it was also good for my brand was, and you commented on it, kindly commented on it, Stephen, was on the Friday, the 23rd of March, just thought, right, okay, I could see what was going to happen. So I knew stuff would stop and people were going into a panic. So I just said, you know, I'm just going to donate an hour a day to any sole trader or SME that wants some ideas to generate cash. I will talk. I'm not going to write you a report or anything, but talk to me because I'm great at ideation. And the benefit to both parties was me. I kept my brain, you know, I kept my brain turning over. While I was doing my other sales development, sales protection, sales development, I keep my brain ticking over and keep using the muscle. And I had people from Czechoslovakian tour guides to CEOs of health startups to someone who was pivoting, you know, was going from doing, I don't know, coaching to pupils through to, I mean, all sorts of stuff. And it made us both feel good because they probably felt alone, no one to talk to, couldn't afford anyone usually. And I felt like I had a purpose, giving people some stuff. So that was good. But also, I have to say, the Pimento weekly sessions were good, because at least I had a delivered group. You know, I could even just in those early weeks, I don't downplay the importance for a lot of people, I think, of just having some people to hang out with, chat with, we're all in it together kind of thing. Bit of company, just company, never mind the topics being discussed. So they were two good strategies to do.
So making yourself available to people so that actually you could engage, keep your brain going.
More than that, yeah, promoting it.
Getting stuck in and using the programs that are being made available to members so that you could actually feel you weren't alone.
Yeah.
About you, Donna, because I know obviously you were working, initially you were working full time, and then we had to reduce your number of days a week to 3, which then gave you more time to do other stuff. I think, you know, you took the opportunity to do some training, didn't you, to keep your mind motivated? And,
yeah, that definitely helped when I was furloughed. Now it's starting to get a bit slightly more difficult, I think, because furloughed I had a bit more of a like a focus, because I was pretty much working 9 to 5 with the training, because it took up so much time, because I had to fit it into those 3 weeks before I went back to work. But now the three days is like the spare time I have. I'm trying to get back into a bit more of a routine. I don't actually like having the afternoons off or the days off at the moment. I preferred working 9 to 5, so it's just trying to find something else to focus on.
Yeah, and then still opportunities obviously to do further training, and
Yeah.
And we're not short of work. We just need to get you back as soon as we possibly can, as you know. But yeah, I think it's worth talking about that, how you took the opportunity to train. But equally too, you live in a household where you have had different people in at different times, haven't you? So your sister was there for a while, your boyfriend's been there. How's that worked?
It was everyone working from home at the first month, and now everyone's gone back to work, so it's just me in the house again, which I was used to before. That is another thing. We are obviously so used to working from home, so for Pimento it wasn't a massive adjustment anyway, compared to most people, some other agencies who never really worked from home at all. So for us it was less of an adjustment.
Yeah.
Me personally.
But I think two things that have adjusted. One is you're not able to come have a physical meeting, which you would do once a week, and you stay overnight here and you'd spend the evening with us, which is social as well as work. The other thing, of course, is you're not going up to town now, are you?
Yeah, no.
Maybe you can reflect upon that. You know, that inevitably, you know, keeping you busy is really important, but equally to managing your time and maintaining that morale is really, really very difficult.
Yeah.
But you're a very positive person, so I think in your very nature you're very up most of the time. Having check-ins, which we do, you know, our weekly marketing meeting we have.
Yeah, we have increased communication massively.
We have, and we're actually probably seeing more of each other in some respects.
Yeah, definitely the other PDs.
Okay.
For me.
All right. So are you able to talk on behalf of us?
Yeah. You can type in if I miss anything.
Yeah.
You're talking to yourself again. Sweet boy.
It happens all the time.
Get better conversation that way.
Yeah, I'm always right.
I saw someone put a meeting room, you know, with all the risk assessments and stuff that people are putting up in their offices. I saw a sign the other day that said, "This meeting room is for one person only." Brilliant. At least no one disagrees with you.
Yeah.
I've done the insights thing. One of my best friends owned the franchise for Spain and Poland.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Yeah. So she was one of the founding element of Insights. She got bought out about 2 years ago from Insights. Well, they bought out Spain, they bought out Poland from her.
Right. Interesting. So you've done that. So all the colours made sense to you.
I'm yellow.
Well, we all have all 4. Let me just remind everybody that we do all have all 4 colours, but you do have a lead colour normally. So
Janice told me I'm yellow.
Interesting. The analysis is applicable to 7.5 billion people. So it doesn't matter where you are or where you're from or what language you speak or what food you eat. I learned many years ago when we first did it at a car company that it's applicable to every human being. The odd exception, Morley, Knighty, Clark, you know.
Yeah. So the other's not coming back.
They're all here.
Have we lost everybody? Hang on. I think we. Oh no, we're not all quite back,
No,
are we?
Because you're on a
I
different
always have a
screen.
fear when we do breakout rooms that I'm going to lose some people. Maybe they chose not to come back.
No,
You've lost one person. So we lost a few people as soon as you threatened breakout rooms, and then after yes, we lost one on the way back. We lost Vinny, but we're all here.
Okay, everyone else is back. Good. Okay. So if anyone's got any real insights that they would love to share, then that would be really fabulous. But I'm so conscious of the time. We know we always run on, don't we, Donna? We know however much we try and cut from a session, we know we're going to be tight for time. So if anyone would like to share something that they think would be useful for the whole group, that would be wonderful. Maybe you could type in the chat while we do our wrap up. That would be amazing. We thought we'd just go back to this this slogan and see if it's giving you any food for thought. What will you do today after the session to thank yourself for in the future? And then I'll let Donna finish a wrap up. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat in case anyone decides they would love to share their insights with us all, because we'll all be keen to hear what you've talked about in the chat if possible.
Okay, so as we said earlier on, this whole activity was really about encouraging an open mind, and just thinking about different options and different ways of doing things. Just by thinking about the our different personalities, how we're perceived by people. And it's really just thinking, about an action that you can take, which might be slightly different, that's kind of awakened. And as I said, whenever we do anything which is coaching related or insights related, there's always something people go, yeah, I know that, but I just kind of don't have time to focus on it. Particularly at the moment, we are just having to move forward and, make the best of what we can. But by just being able to stop and think, can I do something in a slightly different way? Or am I being perceived and am I being heard correctly, will actually mean that we can be more effective. So just thinking about it, think about what was the most valuable part of the session today. Was it actually thinking about what the business challenges were, or was it the 6 steps? Or was it really just thinking about different personality types and how it can work? Thinking about what you've learned about yourself as a leader. We will send out the slides and show those good day and those bad days in all of the colours. When we talk in insights language, no one is any one colour. We have all 4 of them, but we will be naturally drawn to certain ways of doing things. And whether that's a very decisive pushing forward leader, or someone who is slightly more empathetic or persuasive, they are all completely valid. But the more that we can grow our leadership style to actually incorporate bits of all of them, the more likely we are to be able to engage with a greater audience. So think about what you might want to either dial up or dial down in your leadership style, particularly when we think about those bad day colours. And as Heidi said, if you can just take 5 to 10 minutes just to look at that STRESSORS sheet, because I know personally, like David, I lead with sunshine yellow. And when things do get really heightened stressful, then I will become slightly manic and irritate people. So it is just being aware of what's going on. So thinking about the actions in the 6 steps that maybe you haven't thought about right now. Are there some that you've actually been having more focus on than others? So actually thinking about those. And any additional actions that you might have picked up from what we've talked about, or what you might have done in the group chat to enable you to drive forward. Anything to add?
Some of the groups, yeah, that's brilliant. Some of the groups are popping some thoughts in the chat. That's really helpful. Thank you all so much for taking the time to type those out. Hopefully everyone's get a chance to read those before we sign off. And I think we ought to hand back to Stephen to wrap us up. And again, Stephen, I'm so sorry about our poor timing.
Okay, I got the controls back again. Marvellous. Listen, well, thank you so much, ladies. A really interesting and insightful session. I think we should allow an hour and a half for this, because I think there's lots of things that we can take out from this, and it would be good to actually do more breakouts, I think. Our little session which I had with Emma and with Molly was really interesting, because both of them are working from home, both of them haven't got necessarily busy households, and in the case of Molly, she's had to sort of very much fend for herself, and she's a very social being, yet somehow she's maintained her positiveness and contributed, and we've communicated regularly, and that's been really helpful. But yeah, lots to be done in this next period, I think, as we go through to both Christmas and into the spring of next year. If we continue to work in this fashion, it's going to take its toll. So we just got to continue to find ways to self-improve and be self-aware and help each other. So thank you once again. We should come back to this, I think. I think we have to come back to this subject in the future, because I think we've still got lots to learn. And I think for now, we'll have to leave it there. But thanks to everyone's contributions, and best regards to the team back at Reality HR.
Thank you so much for having us. We'll make sure the slides and the handouts are sent out for you. And we'd love to come back, Stephen, and carry on talking. It's a subject Donna and I are both passionate about, so we're happy to come back whenever you'll have us. Thank you all.
Cheers then.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.